This week on Supercars Talk, I take a look at who pays to play. So I was listening to another V8 Supercar podcast the other day. Yes, there is, other places where you can get some Supercars information. Not going to throw anyone under the deep end, but they had a listener question, and they were asking who are the pay drivers in the field, and they kind of skirted around the topic a bit and didn't want to throw anyone in the deep end or anything, I suppose because they don't want to miss out on any interviews or anything like that. Key thing for me is doesn't matter who I offend because I'm not getting any interviews off anyone, so they're not going to see me in the paddock or anything and want to punch me out. So I think we're pretty safe. I can give my honest opinion on everything. Funnily enough, there's a YouTube series that some other people are doing that they're talking about their honest opinions and things like that. It's not bad, but I think maybe there seems to be a few links in there that maybe they are still holding back over a few things. But I don't want to offend anyone too much and name any names. So who is a pay driver is a very good question in this day and age. The lines have definitely been blurred over the years. You used to get, back in the old days, you'd have guys that, that'd been very successful in business and things like that, made a lot of money and, wanted to go and play at Bathurst, or you had people who had a lot of family money and things like that, and, they wanted to go and have a drive. So, they go and buy a car and run it themselves, things like that. You could do that back in the old days, or, lob up a team with a big bag of cash and, buy yourself a seat on the grid, things like that. Probably one that springs to mind would have been Graham Bailey, very famous chicken farmer. He, ended up winning Bathurst in '86 with Alan Grice. He turned up with a big bag of chickadee money, and off they went. With Les Small and that, built a brilliant car, and Alan Grice did most of the driving. Not to say he was a really bad driver or anything, but he definitely wasn't on the top level. This day and age, you don't get people like that. Pretty simple. I've written out a list here of all the drivers, and there's no one in V8 Supercars now that fits that traditional, like big bag of cash, and that's the only reason that they've got the drive. Everyone in the field is actually a very good driver. Some are better than others, but you can't say that they're not that no one's not deserving of a drive, but you can't say that most of them would probably still be there if they didn't have a big bag of cash, as long as there wasn't someone else bringing a bag of cash to kind of replace them with it. So if we really, as I said, there's no true pay drivers. There is a bit of a difference. I've got two columns here. There is paid drivers, and then there's drivers that bring sponsorship. And I was quite surprised that the list is very skewed in one direction. Now, in the paid drivers, there is some drivers who have personal sponsorship deals, things like that, and drivers who the sponsors want them there at that team. And they might not be there at that team if the sponsorship wasn't there. And then obviously you've got the drivers who they bring the sponsorship with them. And as I've discussed, it's not that they're bad drivers, but they definitely have a financial package with them. As we go through the list, you'll probably see that they're not kind of true pay drivers in the sense of the word. So we'll have a quick run through the field. At the top of the list, we've got the two DJR Team Penske drivers, Scott McLaughlin and Fabian Coulthard. They're definitely in the paid column, plain and simple. Triple Eight, Jamie Whincup, Shane Van Gisbergen. Whincup blurs the line a little bit now that he's a owner of the team, but if Jamie hadn't bought into the team, he'd still be there regardless, no question they're both paid. Then we move on to Erebus. Of course, Dave Reynolds, he's a paid driver. If you listen to his podcast, they keep going on about his $2 million a year contract. Don't think it's quite that high, but he's definitely paid. And Anton De Pasquale, that's definitely been in the news that, Betty wasn't sure about going with him. Barry Ryan kind of pushed his cause, and he's probably not on a big pay packet, but he is not bringing sponsorship with him. We move on to Gary Rogers Motorsport. Both of their drivers, they're not bringing sponsorship. Stanaway and James Goulding. Stanaway's the first of the drivers, though, that he's there because of the sponsor. It was a big thing in the news earlier on in the year. Probably get into this in a separate video, but Boost Mobile decided they didn't want Garth Tander, was too old for their marketing. They wanted someone like Richie. So Richie got the drive. That's not that Richie brought the Boost money along. That was just, Boost wanted a younger driver. Richie was available. He fitted what the sponsor wanted. Move on to Brad Jones Racing. The three of their cars, they're paid drivers. I don't think Macaulay Jones is probably getting a big pay packet or anything, but I imagine Tim Slade and Nick Percat, they're paid for their job. They're probably not on the mega dollars at the top end of the field, but they'd be. I think I'd be pretty happy getting their wage to go and race cars. 14, 15 times a year. Okay, now some of the more questionable ones. We move on to Tickford. So Mostert, of course, he's definitely a paid driver, but the Supercheap sponsorship is definitely, Supercheap's very happy with him, and the rumour is if he does leave Tickford, that Supercheap money is quite possibly going with him to Walkinshaw's. So, and that's probably not even like Walkinshaw's trying to sign him, probably isn't like, hey, we'll get, if he, Supercheap will come with him kind of thing, we'll get that money. That's probably just a bonus of signing someone like Chaz, is that he also has a big financial package with him. Lee Holdsworth, he's probably getting, living expenses, not much. I doubt he's bringing money. Will Davison's another one, a bit like Chaz Mostert, where the sponsors and that is they've signed up to the Will Davison experience. He does actually have some personal sponsors that do feature on the car, but he's not signed because of the money he's bringing. Then, of course, Cam Waters is in the other column. He's in the bring sponsorship column. So the NZ across the top of the windscreen on his car, that's some family connection to NZ. I don't think it's direct money from the family, but it is a family connection with NZ. Then we have Mark Winterbottom. He is definitely paid, but I know part of the attraction for Irwin and Bunnings to move onto that car this year was the whole package of having Mark Winterbottom there, brand new 888 car, things like that. Winterbottom is paid, but the sponsorship's definitely tied in. It's a little bit of a different scenario there again, like kind of the Chaz Mostert and Richie Stanaway. They're not actually bringing the money with them, but the sponsors, definitely involved there because the money, the sponsorship's definitely there because of the name driver that, they can say, we've got Mark Winterbottom, he's a Supercars champion. And the last guy I've got on the paid column, and this is because his teammate fits onto the other side, is James Courtney. I have heard that a couple of the sponsors on the team are kind of involved with Courtney. I know he was signed to Holden Racing Team at the time because he was the champion. They wanted number one on the side of the car. No matter what anyone says, he was available because DJR was imploding at the time. He's a paid driver. It'd be interesting to see if Chaz does go there next year, if Courtney moves, which sponsors are still at Walkinshaw next year and which go to wherever Courtney's going. I have heard, has been pretty much confirmed that Courtney will be on the grid next year, no matter what. Read into that what you will. Then his teammate is the first one I'll properly discuss. Oh, actually, I discussed Cam Waters already, so no. Scott Pye, he does bring sponsorship to the team, but he is also probably paid, which is also, most of the guys on this list, are paid, but they'll bring money with them, but part of that is that they get a percentage of it, or the team pays them and the sponsor comes along, and the contracts are probably very complicated and very involved, more than I've never seen one of the contracts, so I can't get into it too much. Okay, then we look at, actually I didn't mention on the paid column Rick Kelly. So Kelly Racing, one of the drivers is definitely a paid driver. That's Rick. Yes, he is part owner of the team, but he does get paid for his services, and he also fits into the Castrol's signed up, for that Rick Kelly experience. He is a champion, so they're very happy with that. And if Rick wasn't driving, unless they signed a big name, maybe James Courtney, the Castrol money probably wouldn't be there. I don't think Castrol would be signing up for, say, a Jacobson or Heimgartner in the same way that they've signed up to have Kelly in the car. So that Jacobson, Heimgartner, they bring some kind of money, not sure how much. They probably get a portion of it or something, a living expenses thing, a bit like Lee Holdsworth. Simona Di Silvestro, okay, she comes with a big bag of cash, but she also gets paid. And you probably find that she'd probably be in the top 10 earners in the field, which does make it very confusing when everybody talks about her as a pay driver. She brings a sponsorship package. She's not a pay driver in the same way as I explained kind of earlier what pay drivers are. Covered Cam Waters, and then we've got Todd Hazelwood and Jack LeBrock. Both of them are bringing some kind of funding, not massive, but they definitely, they're not a traditional paid driver. Having said that, though, you put both of those guys in a Penske or a 888 car, and I think you'd see them rocket to the front of the grid and probably be there, most of the time. They'd probably, maybe they might not challenge. I think both of them probably got it in them if they had the time to definitely challenge, the guy. If they were in the top cars, they'd be able to challenge guys in the top cars. And they're probably what fits the closest to what a pay driver is these days, kind of them and Simona, I suppose. And none of them are these crappy drivers that pay drivers are made out to be. And even if we went through the list of the co-drivers for Bathurst and for the enduro rounds, you probably wouldn't find many that are true kind of pay drivers. And even those, Alex Rouleau probably fits into that kind of pay driver mould the best out of everyone at the moment. And when look at his results in Super 2, even his TCR stuff, I think there's a bit of a issue there with the Astra. They're not the greatest, but it's not like he's miles down the back of the grid or anything. Super 2 last year, he was definitely in the top 10 most of the year, and the same thing in TCR. He's playing in the top 10, and as much as TCR kind of, there's some very good drivers in there, and at the moment I don't think he's got the equipment that, his results will probably be a lot better if you put him in one of those like Hyundais or, one of those front running cars. So that's a quick wrap up of the pay driver dispute. No big bombshells here, unfortunately. No one's really a pay driver these days. They bring sponsorship packages, and then even, people a bit kind of bag Simona about, the money that she brings, but you also then look at the drivers who have sponsors that, you know, want to be part of that experience of, you know, having an ex-champion or something on the team. And then if you looked at, say, Shell or Red Bull, if, you know, Penske went and signed two unknown drivers, or, you know, Triple Eight, you know, even if Triple Eight went and signed Hazelwood and LeBrock, I don't think Red Bull's going to be, you know, super pumped about it. Maybe if they see the results didn't change much, it might be okay. But, you know, these sponsors these days, they have a lot of pull in. It's not like the old days where, you know, the tobacco companies were just throwing whatever money they had at kind of, and you could pick whatever driver you wanted, or whoever's name was on top of the door, you know, that's who got the drive. Yeah, it's the lines are definitely blurred these days, but really in the series it's so competitive, you know, there's no one who's just paying the bills. So that's it for me today. I'll see you next time.
Put away your inhibitions, let the beast in you just get loose. We all young, wild, and